Kangaroo At, the land of the morning calm, South Korea. 안녕하세요. The Roo safely arrived in the Orient today and has begun his South Korean adventure. The Roo was shocked to discover that he is only 23 miles or 37 kilometers from the DMZ. The demilitarized zone is a 1.2 mile wide region of the Korean peninsula that separates North Korea from South Korea, roughly following the 38th parallel, about 150 miles long. The demilitarized zone is considered to be the most heavily militarized frontier in the world. Located within the DMZ is the truce village of Panmunjom. But most of the rest of the land has reverted to nature, making it one of the most pristine, undeveloped areas in Asia. The truce village was the site of peace discussions during the Korean War and has since been the location of various conferences over issues related to North and South Korea, their allies, and the United Nations. The Roo wanted to see the truce village in Panmunjom, which today is known as the Joint Security Area, or JSA. I asked him if he really wanted to go to the DMZ, and he said, yep, he wasn't afraid. So, I made the arrangements, and off we went. The blue buildings contain conference rooms and resting rooms for the delegates who are engaging in talks between these two nations. These buildings are exactly positioned on the actual border between North and South Korea. The thin concrete divider is the actual line that you cannot cross. If you get too close and a North Korean soldier grabs you and pulls you over the border, no one can cross to retrieve you. You will essentially be a prisoner of war. Before we can enter the building from the south side, North Korea must be notified and all personnel evacuated. Then, highly trained South Korean Special Forces troops enter the building and ensure that it's clear. Only then we could enter the building. We were always escorted by these highly trained South Korean soldiers who were experts in Taekwondo, which is a Korean form of martial arts, and had to be at least 6 feet tall. The South Koreans wanted to be clear that they are dominant, bigger, stronger, and better trained. But their first responsibility was for our safety. Once in the building, the soldiers would stand in front of the door to the north side and were on high alert, watching out the windows and keeping an eye on the doors. Once the room was secure, we were allowed to roam around and we could actually step over the border and be in North Korea. The center of the conference table is divided perfectly by the border so that dignitaries could sit across from each other and discuss matters of peace. We then went outside with 2 tough-looking South Korean soldiers standing between us and the border and were able to walk closer to the actual line. For some reason, we sparked the interest of the North Koreans as they sent 2 men down, one with a camera, and they began taking pictures of me and the Roo. So, I took a picture back. The soldiers advised me to step back and clear the area for now, and of course we did. Since November of 1974, South Korea has discovered 4 tunnels crossing the DMZ that have been dug by North Korea. The orientation of the blasting lines within each tunnel indicates that they were dug by North Korea. North Korea claimed that the tunnels were for coal mining. Tunnel 1, which was about 3 feet by 4 feet, extended more than 1 kilometer beyond the border into South Korea. The tunnel was reinforced with concrete slabs and had electric power and lighting. There were weapons storage and sleeping areas. A narrow-gauge railway with carts had also been installed. Estimates based on the tunnel's size suggested that it could have allowed approximately 20,000 soldiers to pass through it per hour. The second tunnel was discovered on 19 March 1975 and was much deeper and larger than the one previously found. The third tunnel was discovered on 17 October 1978 following a tip from a North Korean defector. And the fourth tunnel was discovered on 3 March 1990. The RU was amazed to know that technically, North Korea and South Korea are still at war. They signed an armistice on 27 July 1953, but still maintain their declarations of war against each other. This agreement is all that technically prevents North Korea and the United States, along with its ally South Korea, from resuming the war, as no peace treaty has ever been signed. I told the RU that not everything about the DMZ is bad. Several endangered animals and plant species now exist among the heavily fortified fences and landmines and listening posts. These include the extremely rare red-crowned crane, which serves as a staple of Asian art, and the white-naped crane, as well as potentially the extremely rare Siberian tiger, the Amur leopard, and the Asian black bear. Ecologists have identified some 2,900 plant species, 70 types of mammals, and 320 kinds of birds within the narrow buffer zone. Additional surveys are now being conducted throughout the region. I wanted to show the RU some beauty and splendor that this country beholds. So we took a moment and I showed the RU what makes South Korea such an incredible place. The RU said he was hungry and wanted to try something different, so I took him to my favorite restaurant. We don't refer to them as Korean restaurants here because, well, they're all Korean restaurants. We were joined by a good friend of mine, Mr. Hong, and we ordered my favorite meal. It's called budae-jjigae. From 1950 to 1953, during the Korean War, the Korean economy was decimated and farms and most livestock were destroyed. The people struggled to survive. There was very little meat to be found. Some of the restaurant owners in the local towns located just out of U.S. military bases would trade fresh vegetables for meats that the American dining facilities were serving the soldiers. They would get products like hot dogs, sliced ham, breakfast sausage, and Spam. The restaurants would mix this in a soup with simple Korean vegetables and tofu, and voila! Budae-jjigae was created and is still very popular even today. Then the RU said he wanted to try some kimchi. I warned him that it is an acquired taste, but he felt that while he was here he needed to give it a try. Kimchi is a staple side dish that accompanies just about every Korean dish. There are hundreds of kimchi variations, and families pride themselves on their special recipes. Fresh cabbage is soaked in salted water, then rinsed, and a special porridge paste is hand-applied to all the layers of the cabbage leaves. This paste is where the variety can cater to your personal taste. Some kimchi is sweeter, some more sour, and even others spicy, but all usually contain very strong flavors like ginger, garlic, and onions, along with local ingredients that can give a kimchi recipe its magical flavor. It is then placed in pots and buried underground so it can ferment for weeks and sometimes months before it's eaten. You know when the kimchi is just right by the smell. And it is that smell that gives it its bad reputation, because during the 2 seasons when kimchi is made, the fermented smell can be noticed just about everywhere you go, because every family makes kimchi. I love this stuff. The roux, not so much. Hey, but at least he tried it. The roux then saw these bottles filled with alcohol and roots in them, and asked me what they were. I explained that they were ginseng roots. These jars are a traditional homemade energy drink made with Korean ginseng, vodka, and Tanzanian dark coffee beans for the caffeine. This is all placed in a 3-liter jar and marinated for 6 months. Ginseng is the name given to at least 3 different plants that are used as tonics, substances to strengthen the body and regulate stress. There are the Asian, American, and Siberian ginseng varieties. Even though all 3 ginsengs are used as tonics, herbalists and others familiar with herbal remedies tend to use them for different purposes. Korean ginseng is considered to be the most potent or stimulating type of ginseng. Ginseng roots are best when left to mature for 5 to 10 years. A product made with a root allowed to mature for at least 6 years usually denotes a quality product. There are 2 types of ginseng, wild and cultivated. The price of wild ginseng is much higher than ginseng cultivated on farms, mainly because it's harder to get. The price per root of wild ginseng begins from $50 and can double or even triple depending on how old they are. South Korea is the world's largest distributor of ginseng with a market of $1,140 million annually. Here is a picture of the roux with what is known as the mushroom of immortality. It has been used as a medicinal mushroom in traditional Chinese medicine for more than 2,000 years, making it one of the oldest mushrooms known to have been used medicinally. It mainly treats binding in the chest, boosts the heart, strengthens the immune system, sharpens the wits, improves the memory, prevents senility, and is said to prolong life. I told the roux that you can't leave Korea without experiencing soju. So he agreed to throw back a couple of bottles with me, and we had a great time. While we were getting hammered, I explained to the roux that soju is considered Korea's most popular alcoholic beverage. It is traditionally made from rice, wheat, or barley. Soju is clear and colorless. Its alcohol content varies from about 18% to 45% alcohol by volume. That's up to 90 proof. And I think the roux was starting to feel it. Just to put it in perspective, beer is only 6% alcohol by volume and wine is 14%. Some 61.3 million cases of Jinro soju were sold last year, easily making it the world's most heavily consumed brand of liquor. In a very distant second was Smirnoff vodka with 24.7 million cases sold. Lotte liquor soju was third on the list with 23.9 million cases. Further down the list of the 180 brands was Bacardi rum at number 5, selling 19.5 million cases. Jack Daniel's whiskey, number 19, sold 10.5 million cases. And Jim Beam whiskey bourbon sold 5.8 million cases at number 37. I was telling the roux that most people outside of Korea know very little about this drink, and that is because it's not heavily exported. The reason for its popularity, 1, it's a very strong liquor, and 2, it's dirt cheap. A 12-ounce bottle of soju is less than $1, yet its alcohol content is triple that of a beer. so you're really getting much more bang for your buck. Now that me and the Roo are all liquored up, I had almost forgotten that I had a poker tournament to play in the next day. So we called it a night, and the next day we were off to the tables. The Roo told me that he'd never played poker before, so I gave him some quick lessons. He seemed to quickly grasp the concept of position, chip stacks, starting hands, pot odds, betting patterns, reading your opponent, putting them on a hand, when to bluff, and when to fold. The Roo was having such a good time, he kept trying to mix himself up with the poker chips so he could play poker forever. I told him that you can't do that. He needs to travel to his next destination and then eventually find his way home. He finally agreed to stay out of the pots, and at the end of the day, we ended up placing 4th in the tournament. Not bad. I felt like the Roo needed to see some entertainment before he left Korea, so we attended a talent contest being held at the Seoul American High School where my daughter was performing. There were some very talented young people there that night, and here are some of the brief highlights of our evening.
diamonds down with the hay. When they will all be free, it's proud to be under the same sun, singing songs of freedom's light. Why-yo, why-yo, why-yo. All my life I've been waiting for, praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. One day, one day, one day, yeah, one day, one day, one day.
The Roo said he had a wonderful evening, but wanted to know if I could get him a backstage pass so he could meet some of the artists. So I pulled some strings and had to grease the palm of one of the security guys and snuck the Roo back where he was able to snap this picture with one of the talents. Then the Roo's night was complete. The next day, the Roo said he needed to move on. He thanked me for the great memories and now is looking for the next destination. I will miss the Roo. He's a party animal who knows how to have a good time. The land of the morning calm will miss the Roo.